What's up, guys? Today we came back with a vengeance against Flippy 2222 1949 from Australia. With a 91% accuracy, he didn't do too bad himself, had no problems, but did lose an advantage at one point. Let's see what happened. Started off with the Queen's Gambit, d4, c4. He goes for the Slav setup. I developed knight to c3, putting pressure on the d5 pawn. He defends with knight f6. I develop knight to f3, very standard moves. He captures the pawn, and now that he released control over the e4 square, I push e4. I now have two pawns in the center, and my bishop's looking at the c4 pawn. If he lets me take it, my position will look really nice. He doesn't want me to take it, so he pushes b5, and I can see that at any point he may want to push b4 and kick my knight. My knight doesn't have any squares that I like, so I choose to create a square for it with a tempo by going e5. This creates a central square that my knight can hop into, now that it's kicking the knight that's defending that square. So his knight has to move, and instead of, let's say, trading, I don't hop my knight because he didn't kick it yet, but I have this square available. I played a4, and this challenges the pawn and threatens to win it outright with takes, takes, and takes. So he has to do something, he has to address this. He pushes the pawn. Now I jump into the center, now that I'm provoked. And it's black's turn, and this pawn is hanging. So what does black do? Black moves his knight from the center to b6 in an attempt to defend this pawn, which doesn't make any sense because I'm obviously just going to go a5 and kick it. He goes right back to where he came from, and I just take the pawn. So now I'm clearly better. I did lose this advantage though. He goes bishop a6. Now the move that I should play here, which I didn't see, is e6, causing problems on the king side pawn structure and on the light squares. It's a common idea in lots of different openings, but that doesn't cross my mind, and I play queen e2 instead. That way I can get my queen to c4, and it looks like it's an active square pressuring a ton of stuff. He takes, I recapture, and yeah, my queen is on an active square. It's a light bishop replacement and light square bishop replacement. That's what I was trying to say. And it looks nice here. He goes e6, stopping me from going e6 and defending this pawn a second time. I castle just to get my king to safety before I start any fun stuff. He goes bishop e7, preparing his own castling. Here I go bishop d2, getting my last piece off the back rank. And you see how I'm much more developed than he is? I'm much more active than he is. It's nice for white for sure. Now he goes queen c7, I guess adding a defender to this pawn in case he wants to develop the knight. And here I go knight to c5, cutting off the bishop's connection with this pawn. The problem with this is it trades too much stuff. Like I have a positional bind kinda, and this just ends up trading a lot of stuff, and at the end of the line losing this e5 pawn. And I was relying at the time, I'll show you what I'm talking about queen b7 at the end of the line, but I calculated that I didn't like the way it ended. Anyway, let me show you. I put my knight in here, which threatens to win this pawn, right, because it's hit twice. Also, my knight is on an outpost, and, you know, controls a lot of squares. And normally this would be good. It would be ideal if I first, let's say, put this knight here so that it's hit. That way, after the recaptures, I can keep a piece there, whether it's a rook, a knight, whatever. Because if I have to recapture with the pawn, then my advantage kind of disappears. So I went here, and he develops his knight. And this knight and queen actually hit this twice. So on multiple recaptures here with this pawn actually hangs, and that's a problem. So I take the pawn because it's hanging. What could be more natural than that? Then he takes the bishop. I take the piece. He takes the knights. He just mass trades. And I can't take with the queen because that was my queen. So I have to take with the pawn. And now he gets to win this pawn. So now I take the knight because it's strong in the center. Now his queen is strong in the center. And so just slowly, I lost my positional bind. And then queen b7 at first looks really nice because it hits the rook, it hits the pawn. But then I thought, if he just castles, right, and I take the pawn and he throws a rook on c8, I have to move my queen somewhere. He could just take this pawn too. He's just as active as me, and material's equal, and that's just a dead draw. And so I wanted to keep any winning chances that I possibly had left alive, because I have a 3 on 2 here, and he has a 4 on 3, but usually the 4 on 3 is harder to get moving than the 3 on 2. So I just wanted to keep any possible outplaying advantage alive. Queen b7 is the engine's top move, but I don't see how. I mean, it's just a drawn position at this point, so any move is whatever. Rook e1, I thought just bring it to a file with tempo and just see if the queen goes back, or if it doesn't go back. Either way, I'm staring at the king. He goes back, but now he's hitting my pawn. I counter with queen e4, saying, if you take my pawn, I'll take your pawn, and then you're gonna have problems. So you can't really take the b2 pawn, but now he castles. So now if I take, again, he can take this way, he can put a rook, and so there's no real advantage to be had here. So I just go b4, making a move that doesn't immediately draw. He goes queen b5, just making contact with all 3 pawns. I now put a rook to the open file. He contests with his rook, but this gives me the move I want, which is rook d6. And what that move does is it allows me to double my rooks, and he can't stop that double without trading. But trading his rooks means I now get a pawn on d6, and if he doesn't calculate, if he's not in time, that's going to be a strong pawn, not a weak pawn. So I go rook d6. He takes it because if I double, it's really bad for him. I recapture, and now this pawn's kind of deep into enemy territory, but let's see what happens. He goes for this queen trade. Now I was planning on putting a rook behind it, right? Obvious move. And just slowly, maybe I can do something, maybe I can't, but it looks nice for me. So he tries to stop this by severing connection, offering a queen trade, and if I take, and my rook can no longer touch my pawn because it'll be hidden behind his pawn. But I take anyway, and he takes, and the problem that he has is it's my move. If it was his move, he can get to the pawn no problem, but now I get the open file first, and so this is really bad for him. because I'm coming to the second rank and there's nothing he can do to stop me. So he tries to blockade the pawn as fast as possible, which would be perfect. If he could teleport his king here, he'd be fine probably, but he can't do that because that's illegal. Rook c7. Now he can never touch the pawn. He gets as close as he can. And now I just push these pawns because I have a pass pawn, potential pass pawn here. He pushes a pawn. I acknowledge and say, listen, that's fine, but I'm gonna stop anything here. He pushes another pawn because he has no other counterplay. It's literally just this pass pawn. I give a check. Doesn't really matter where he goes. I'm threatening 2 pawns. I take this one because now I'm still targeting so many. Now he goes back. Even if he checks me, I go here. He checks me, I go here. He checks me, I go here. No big deal. He's not threatening anything. So I take another pawn. I choose to take this pawn because now I have 2 connected pass pawns, and that is 1,000 times better than if I took this pawn here and there's this guy contesting, because these guys are worth so much now, almost a rook even. So he pushes. Now he does have a threat. If you're sleeping at the wheel, checkmate. How many of you would have fallen for that? So I just say, you know what, no counterplay for you. I don't need my rook on the second. I have these 2 connected pass pawns. It's game over. Without a piece, your king has to babysit these, which means that if your king is stuck here for the entire game, I could just walk my king around and do whatever I want. So, take me. And he does take me. Now I check him. He takes, but now these pawns have to be babysit the whole time by the king, because if the king goes anywhere, I get a pawn, and the king can never take them because as soon as it comes here, I push. He can't take it because then I'll queen. So he just has to sit here but go back and forth the rest of the game. So it's over. Even against Stockfish, it's over. White won, no matter who's playing. All I have to do now is run my king around the board, eat all his pawns, and get more queens. F3, it's just an avenue to the pawns. I could do whatever I want. I control him. I can run my king around the board because he can never take, because I'll just promote. So he has to just sit here and do nothing. And that's why connected pass pawns are so strong and winning tools in an endgame. See, now I have all the time to do what I want. I troll him. I don't even take. I just push past. Then I didn't checkmate him, I trolled him. I even got a knight here. Then I got a queen. Then I checkmated him. A little bit of troll never hurt. If he's not going to resign, I could do this stuff. Come on. So, if I had to go over this quickly, I would say for someone who doesn't know theory, it was pretty awesome up to here. I need to be more familiar with e6. From the caro-kann, I know this idea, so I need to start thinking about it in other positions. Why does it hate this so much, though? Just because the king's open, I guess. And the weak pawns. So maybe bishop g5, but bishop g5 and trades, then it releases control of this square, I see. So it's a debate to get him out of this square. Interesting. played knight c5. I still don't hate knight c5. I do think I should have had another piece protecting it, though. I don't remember if I saw this pawn was hanging at the end of the line. I don't think I did, or I might not have gone for this, but I don't remember what I was thinking when I was playing. Or maybe I thought I had queen b7, but I don't think so. The rest of this, I like how I played. There was nothing to do here. I like this plan of getting to the file first, because then I get rook d6 in, and winning chances are back. Although he didn't have to go queen d5. He could have immediately went rook d8. Yeah, and the rest was easy. So, yeah, a couple things to pay attention to. Overall, very solid game. And we keep climbing to 21